based on you working now with a lot of different firms and engineers in the
Mhm.
city, do you have any advice or lessons learned you've had along the way for AEC firms for working with you and UPMC?
Keep asking questions, right? Um, that's the most important thing, right? Like, it there's sort of like there's the principles of design, right? There's the principles of engineering, like there's what we think should work, um, but really testing it out and almost, um, you know, mock-ups are important depending on what the project is, but really making sure that we understand what we're doing, um, is important. The other thing that is really important, I think, for AEC firms, and I think firms have gotten it because they see the power in it as well. Um, you know, I'm one project manager, and you could ask me all of your questions. I have to then take those questions and ask all these other people. I would rather facilitate the meeting and get you an opportunity with the people that you need to talk to directly, whether they're from facilities or stakeholders, or whoever, and try to make sure that we get those answers like directly. But in order to do that, let's just say it's facilities, they need to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe very strongly in a good page turn meeting at the right times during a project, um, where we can give the facilities team who knows the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical systems in the hospital better than anybody, who we can show them what we're planning to do to those systems, get them to review it and respond to it. They can review that information a whole lot better than I can, but you also have learned over the years, it's not as effective to sit them down, and whether you put the drawings up on the screen on the wall or whether you actually lay paper out on the table, if they're seeing it for the first time, you're not going to get anything good out of them.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have the time, and they also need to be encouraged and supported to get those documents ahead of time and really dig into them. So what I typically do for a page turn experience is I ask the architect and engineer to get those drawings to me at least a week ahead of time. And we get those over to facilities. And then I talk to facilities and I say, look, we're having a meeting a week from now. I want you to come to that meeting with a list of questions. And I can tell you the meetings that they show up with where they have questions, whatever those questions are way more productive than if we just lay the drawings out and said, okay, here's what we're going to do.
If the engineers have questions for your facilities
No, I want
engineers or the
facilities
other
to ask
way.
questions of the I want facilities to ask questions of the engineer. I want them to challenge the designer,
Got it.
right?
Yep.
And it's really interesting to see how those conversations will evolve, because um, sometimes the facilities team has more information and knows how the systems actually run and work and what they have to do to tweak it to get it, whatever, that is not in those existing set of documents that the engineer used to build off of. And so
Mm-hmm.
it takes all of those things together to create um, a cohesive design.
Yeah.
And honestly, we work with commissioning agents and they're great, right? It's another good design check for particularly for MEP design review, but it also takes a knowledgeable owner, and I include facilities in that knowledgeable owner, bubble, um, to really get after the design and
Yeah.
make sure that it will work. And certainly within a hospital, like there's certain degrees of like modern systems, and there's certain degrees of legacy systems that have been around for a while, right? Like we still have a lot of pneumatically controlled HVAC stuff. You have to tie into that differently than you do the newer stuff, right? So
Yeah.
that's where working with facilities is really important.
Do you
Um,
find the facility, like for MEP, generally
mhm,
the schematic design is all narratives? Do you find facilities is going through narratives as
mhm.
well as the drawing side?
Depending on the person, but yes. What's really important, becoming ever more important on the narrative side for MEP systems, particularly mechanical, is the control systems
Mm-hmm.
narratives and the sequences, and what if the temperature drops, this, that, whatever, all that kind of thing is really important to kind of work through those scenarios. But yeah, I mean, I really try to foster and facilitate an environment where my architects and engineers will work with whoever I have on the hospital side that is part of the project and treat them as the resource, treat them
Mm-hmm.
as if they have the answer to the problem, right?
Yeah.
And that it can kind of go both ways. It's a little cliche for me to say this, but I believe very strongly that everyone is a designer, right? And that doesn't mean that everyone is an architect, but what that means is that everyone does something throughout their day or throughout their life to change or manipulate the physical environment around them, or use the physical environment to accomplish their job or their task. And in doing so, they're a designer because they had to figure out how to set it up or how to change something. And they don't even realize that they're doing it. So, in that sense, I want the design professionals to work with them and figure out what it is that they do that makes things, work for them. Also want them, because healthcare people are, they have a job to do and they're going to do it, and they're going to go straight through and do it, even if they have to jump over a wall to get
Yeah.
there. So they're great at workarounds, right? And they don't even know that they're doing workarounds. So we do a lot of work in, especially in project planning, to challenge like their workflows and try to come up with things that are lean or more efficient, or better flow. And when you ask, a lot of times the answer, when you show a stakeholder group something new that looks a little out of sequence to them, what do you think about this? And they say, well, I don't know. We don't do it that way. Well, could you do it that way? Well, maybe. Why not? We've never done that before, right? Like, this is the way we've always done it. So I really try to put architects, particularly architects, in the position to be successful at trying to get stakeholder groups to be open to a new way of doing something, because I don't want to see us just perpetuate the way we've been doing something if that's the way we've been doing it. So
Yeah.
um, it's it's good.
Yeah. But everybody's fearful of change too. So it's like you're almost being a
Mm-hmm.
mini change management
Yeah.
facilitator as well, because you
Right.
have to educate. And that's where sometimes mock ups or those
Yes.
fiscal workarounds can be
Yep.
so helpful, that it's like, see, you don't have to hit this button 3 times. Like, you can just tap once if we do this new thing. Or
Right.
reducing
Right.
steps is always a big one in healthcare.
Well, and mock-ups and stakeholder involvement in projects as you go through them um, helps orient people to the space when they finally are in it, when it's built. And when it's really incredible when you see that light bulb and somebody go off and they walk in the completed space, and yeah, it's beautiful, but this looks like what we talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is, because you have a piece of it, right? This is what you told
exactly.
us you wanted, and we did it.
And it came to life. You saw it in
Right.
plan 3D, and now it's reality. Switching gears a little bit, has there been any
Mhm.
organizations that have left the biggest impact on your career?
Um, I mean, my university experience, my University of Cincinnati experience, was outstanding. Um, I think I got lucky when I feel like I picked the right school for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
because I was very fortunate. I had the opportunity to go to, almost any architecture school that I applied to, and I picked Cincinnati because I felt like it was the best fit, right? And it was. Um, so that I would say that. But as far as organizations, I don't know. I mean, I of course I maintain my NCARB record, although I've never worked in a state other than Pennsylvania. But there's that always. Well, who, you never
You
know.
never know.
You never know. And I feel like there is a real. I have a strong sense of being a good professional citizen as well. So not only do I maintain the NCARB, but I also maintain my involvement with the AIA, because I think that architects need a strong professional organization to make the case for why we need good architects.
Check out the full discussion from this bite of advice here. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more mentorDINO content.